Oh, something else to mention that I also check is, put the light over here. I double check the switch stack screws here. Sometimes they loosen up, so double check these to make sure they're tight, or at least not, you don't see them coming out. And just like give a tiny push on it to make sure they're secure. Over time, sometimes these brown wafers in here shrink, and then the switch stack is loose. You really have to look at the flippers, the switch stack on the flippers. They tend to back out and loosen up just from all the banging that gets done. On a haunted house, I noticed there were some screws missing out of the switch stack for the flippers, and others were loose. So you have to keep an eye on that. Get a machine restored. And let's see. I think that's it. Oh, I was mentioning before about resistance, checking resistance on the coil to see if they're good. Let's see if I can get this. Oh, whoa. Just put it up here. Alright. So I got it, the meter, multimeter set to, can't tell, but it's 200 ohms. I don't know if it's less than 200 or more, it's probably less. So that setting should be good. It's 200, 2K, 20K, 200, 2 million, 20 million ohms. So these look like they're good. So I'll just put one end on each. And remember, the machine is not hooked up. This is just a head. Let's see if I can get it on there. Come on. There we go. 30 ohms. Right around 30 ohms. And I'll test this one. Okay. It's really a two-handed job. Come on. 30. 31, close enough. So now this one, it's really burnt looking. Let's see what that comes in at. 33, 34. Not horrible, so I'll try it just like that and see if it works. Test this next one, which also had a brown wrapper on it. That comes in at 30. And this last one is also a little brown. That's 32. So this one might be bad, it might not. It's borderline. Anyway, I'm going to leave it like that and just try to work the game with it like that. And then I'll probably replace it at some point once I get a complete order and for all the parts I need. But at least it should be good enough to try, I think. Okay, hopefully that's it for now. Working on a Fireball pinball machine again, Bally Fireball 1972. So far, I've gone through all the points up here, make sure they were adjusted appropriately. All the scroll wheels have been gone through as well. I made sure they all went around smoothly and cleaned the points and adjusted anything that needs to be adjusted. I did find on every one of the scroll wheels, I checked the wiring, make sure there are no broken wires or cold solder joints. This one right here is the only one I found where the solder was cracked. It was a cold solder joint, I guess. We soldered that. Now I'm going to start taking apart these wheels, and there's 4 of them in the back box. This one is the player up unit. Credit wheel, the 0 to 99 mechanism for, I think, match. And this one here is the coin So I'll go through all of them and make sure they're smooth and clean the points and adjust them. So I started working on a player up unit here, and it does not turn smoothly. So what I did was, it's hard to see, but I put a couple of drops of oil on the spring here and any points that pivot. And in the back here, you can see where it turns on the shaft. I put a drop of oil in there and worked it in several times. It's still not working smoothly. So then what I did was, before I take anything apart, yes, take pictures of it, but I also mark off the home position. I used a marker each one of the fingers and on here too, just in case I have to know how it goes back together in the correct position. This screw I took out from here, which holds on these fingers, and then I use a screwdriver in the middle just to pry it off a little bit. And I'm going to continue prying it off, and then I'll lubricate it. I'll use some dielectric grease on here and try to lubricate it down in there a little bit as well. Try to get it to turn smoothly. Okay, so I reassembled it again. I did not take these fingers all the way off, but I did take them off far enough so it would separate from the wafer board. And I put a couple of drops of oil. Let's get a closer picture of that. Yeah, a couple of drops of oil way down in there in the plastic piece. And then I used a Q-tip to soak up any other little drippings of oil, because that could cause this to short out and arc if the oil dripped down over here between these contact points and on the wafer board here, and that will cause you all kinds of aggravation and hassle. So I used a Q-tip to dry up where it wasn't supposed to be. Like I said, I only put a couple of drops inside that wheel, and that's all you really need. And then I'll use alcohol on the Q-tip also to soak up where it's not supposed to be. Now, alcohol, even though it's flammable, I'm not going to have this working for a couple of weeks by the time I get around to doing the other parts, and it'll dry off quickly. Then I used the synthetic lube, which is a dielectric grease, and it's good to like 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and that I'll put on these little areas here to give it a little bit of lubrication. Now I'm just going to screw it back onto the board and call this one done, and it turns better. Okay, so here is the unit up player I've been working on. So this is at its home position, and then when it increments for player 1, 2, 3, 4, it's all off. And then when it resets, it should go right back. See, now it goes back completely to its home position. Before it was getting stuck a little bit, it was not operating smoothly. It would get stuck. It would stop right about there, pretty much in between these two. That would cause you all kinds of problems. Now it has smooth operation. The other thing to check for is, yes, it'll work good when you do like all 4 players, because the spring has a lot of tension, it'll reset itself. But if you only put in like 1 player, so increment it to 1, it only turns one position, and there's not a lot of tension on that spring. So you should always try it just 1 notch up and then see if it resets, because like I said, there's less tension and it may not reset properly. Let's see if this one works. Yes, it does. Good. This wheel next to it, I think that's the 00 to 90 match wheel. Okay, so back to the Fireball again. This is the coin unit relay, and right now it's at its home position, all the way down. And now here I'm going to move move this plunger up just as if it was being energized. I guess when you drop a coin in. Right. Now I'm going to push the other plunger in, and you'll see what happens when it's gummed up. It won't return all the way. See? It's sticky, and that's where it should be. So this is gummed up too. I'll be taking this one apart to some degree and cleaning the dust off it and lubricating various points. I'm going to put like a small tiny drop on the edges of these springs because it's metal on metal. And they should be lubricated a little bit, and over here too. And maybe 1 or 2 drops on this spring because it goes around this plastic and it rubs. And I'll clean the plungers off with alcohol. There's a set of points back here, which I'll use that paper sanding this on there and make sure they're adjusted appropriately. And then I will use this fiberglass or whatever it's made out of, giant eraser, and I'll clean these points off here, or maybe I'll use this smaller one, fiberglass pen to burnish the copper just a little bit, and then I'll clean it off with alcohol on Q-tips, and wipe all the dust off in the dirt. And then I'll put some of this super lube. It's also a dielectric grease on the wafers over here, on these points that are built into the wafer board. And that'll help the whole thing work much better. There'll be less wear on the points.